Hey everyone, and welcome back to Level Up English Podcast. I'm Samantha. Our mission is simple. Don't just learn English, learn in English. If you're just joining us, this is part 2 of our series on the wisdom of Charlie Munger from the book Poor Charlie's Almanac.
In part 1, we built the foundation. We talked about creating a latticework of mental models as our core operating system for rational thought. We also discussed powerful tools like inversion and the circle of competence. Essentially, we learned how to build a powerful engine for thinking.
But, as we all know, even the best engine can be derailed by a faulty operator. Today we're talking about the operator, the human brain. We're diving into what Munger considers his most important contribution to practical thought, the psychology of human misjudgment.
This is where it gets really interesting. Munger's big insight is that our brains are not perfectly rational computers. They are evolutionary survival machines filled with mental shortcuts or biases that often serve us well but can also lead to catastrophic errors in our modern world.
So these aren't just random mistakes. They are predictable, systematic patterns of irrationality.
Precisely. Munger has a checklist of about 25 of these tendencies. We can't cover them all, but today we're going to break down 3 of the most powerful ones. Tendencies that secretly run our lives and our financial decisions. And for each one, we'll give you the Munger-approved antidote.
I'm ready. What's the first one?
Let's start with the king of them all, the reward and punishment super response tendency. Munger says this is the most important model in all of psychology. Simply put, incentives are superpowers.
That seems obvious, doesn't it? If you reward a behavior, you get more of it.
It seems obvious, but Munger argues that people consistently underestimate its power. He says, never ever think about something else when you should be thinking about the power of incentives. The classic example he uses is Federal Express. In its early days, FedEx struggled to get packages sorted on the night shift. The planes had to leave by a certain time, but the workers were slow.
What did they do? Did they give motivational speeches?
They tried everything, but nothing worked. The workers were paid by the hour, so what was their incentive? To work slowly and fill the time. Then, some genius had an idea. Instead of paying them by the hour, let's pay them a fixed amount per shift, and when all the packages are sorted, they can go home.
And what happened?
The problem vanished overnight. Suddenly, the shift was finished in just a few hours instead of all night. The incentives were perfectly aligned with the desired outcome. That's the positive power. But this tendency has a terrifying dark side.
How so?
Bad incentives reliably produce bad behavior, even from good people. Think of the Wells Fargo scandal, where employees were pressured with intense sales quotas to open new accounts. What was the incentive? To hit the target at all costs. The result? Millions of fake accounts were created. The system wasn't rewarding good banking, it was rewarding fraud.
So the antidote here is to look at the underlying incentives first. When you see a strange behavior, whether in business or politics, don't just judge the person. First, figure out the incentive structure they're operating in.
Exactly. And when someone is giving you advice, a financial advisor, a real estate agent, always ask yourself, how do they get paid? Understanding their incentive is your best defense.
That is a crucial life skill. Okay, what's the second major bias on our list?
The second is one we all fall for, the social proof tendency. This is our brain's tendency to think and act like those around us, especially when we are uncertain. In short, it's the power of the crowd.
This one is everywhere. Like when you're on a trip and looking for a place to eat, you instinctively choose the restaurant that's busy and full of people, assuming it must be the best one.
That's a perfect low-stakes example. But this same tendency is the engine of financial manias and bubbles. Think about the dot-com bubble in the late 90s or recent cryptocurrency crazes. Were people buying those assets based on a careful calculation of their intrinsic value?
Not at all. They were buying because their friends, their neighbors, and the news were all saying, everyone's getting rich. You have to get in.
It is pure social contagion. The feeling of being left out while others are profiting is psychologically excruciating. Social proof turns off our rational brain. The rising price itself becomes the proof that it's a good investment, which is circular and insane logic. Munger says we're wired to behave like herd animals, and in the stock market, the herd is often stampeding towards a cliff.
So, how do we protect ourselves from being swept away by the crowd? What's the antidote?
The antidote is to anchor yourself to your own independent thinking. This is where the circle of competence we discussed last time becomes so vital. You must have the discipline to ask, am I buying this because I truly understand the business and believe it's undervalued, or am I buying it because everyone else is?
In other words, you have to learn to be comfortable being alone in your opinion, as long as your opinion is based on facts and sound reasoning.
Yes, you have to be able to say, the crowd is going wild, but from what I can see within my circle of competence, this makes no sense. It requires courage, but it's the only way to avoid getting crushed when the herd inevitably changes direction.
A powerful defense. Okay, we have time for one more. What's the third major tendency?
The third is one of the most subtle and dangerous, the consistency and commitment tendency. Our brains have a deep, almost obsessive desire to be consistent with our previous decisions and public declarations.
Is that why it's so hard to admit we were wrong?
It's exactly why. Once we've made a decision or stated an opinion, we feel immense internal pressure to stick with it to avoid looking inconsistent. Think about finishing a terrible movie you're 2 hours into just because you've already invested the time. That's the consistency tendency in action.
That's called the sunk cost fallacy, right?
Yes, and it's a manifestation of this deeper psychological drive. In investing, it's absolutely lethal. An investor buys a stock. The stock goes down, the company's fundamentals get worse, all the evidence says, you made a mistake, sell it. But what do many people do? They hold on or even buy more to average down. Why? Because selling would be a clear admission that their initial decision was wrong. Their brain would rather be consistent with a bad decision than make a rational new one.
It's like they're trying to prove their past self right, even if it costs them their future wealth. That's terrifying. So what's the antidote to this trap?
It's a combination of intellectual honesty and a willingness to embrace change. The antidote is to treat your beliefs not as part of your identity, but as hypotheses to be tested. The famous economist John Maynard Keynes supposedly said, "When the facts change, I change my mind. What do you do, sir?" That's the spirit.
So you have to be willing to destroy your own best-loved ideas when new evidence comes along.
You must. The takeaway for listeners is to practice detaching your ego from your decisions. When you evaluate a situation, try to see it with fresh eyes, as if you have no prior commitment. Ask yourself, if I didn't already own this stock, would I buy it today based on the current facts? If the answer is no, you need to have the courage to act.
This is so powerful. Let's recap. We have the reward and punishment super response tendency, reminding us that incentives drive almost everything. We have the social proof tendency, the dangerous pull of the crowd, and the consistency and commitment tendency, our brain's irrational desire to stick to past decisions.
And these are just 3 of the 25, but they are a huge part of the story. Munger's ultimate lesson is that becoming a rational person isn't just about learning new things. It's about unlearning these deeply ingrained and often self-destructive mental habits. The goal is to build a habit of constantly asking, is my brain tricking me right now?
It brings everything full circle. The rational framework from part 1 is your shield, and understanding the psychological biases from part 2 tells you what you need to be shielding yourself against.
That's the whole game. Build the lattice work and then use it to protect yourself from your own mind. That, in a nutshell, is the core of Charlie Munger's wisdom.
And that's a wrap for our series on Poor Charlie's Almanac. We hope this has given you a powerful new set of tools for thinking. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to check out the show notes on your podcast app or on our website for a full transcript and a list of all the key vocabulary from today's discussion. If you found this series helpful, the best way to support our show is to hit follow or subscribe and leave us a quick review. It really helps new listeners discover us. Until next time, keep learning and keep growing. I'm Samantha, and this has been the Level Up English Podcast.